Somewhere on Earth right now, humans are killing other humans in an organized way. Not a fight, not an argument that got out of hand. Organized, planned, with weapons, with strategy, with a chain of command. And if you are honest with yourself, part of you is not even surprised. Because somewhere in the back of your mind, there is a voice that has quietly accepted something. That this is just what we are. That humans have always done this. That war is not a choice we keep making. It is a feature we were born with. But here is the thing about that voice. It is wrong. Partly. And the part it gets wrong may be the most important thing anyone ever tells you about human history. Before we get into this, I need to tell you about 27 skeletons found beside a dried-up lagoon in Kenya. 10,000 years ago, a group of people were attacked beside this lagoon. Not ambushed by animals, not killed by disease or famine, attacked by other humans, deliberately, with clear intent and preparation. The skeletons tell the story with uncomfortable precision. Multiple individuals with blunt force trauma to the skull, consistent with club or stone weapons. Projectile points made from obsidian, embedded directly in bone. One skeleton found with their hands, positioned in a way that is consistent with being bound at the time of death. This site is called Nataruk, and it is the oldest confirmed evidence we have of what looks like organized group violence, a coordinated attack, a massacre carried out with planning and intent, and it is genuinely one of the most disturbing things ever excavated from the prehistoric record. Now here is where it gets complicated. Modern humans have existed for approximately 300,000 years. Nataruk is 10,000 years ago. So the question is, what was happening in the 290,000 years before the oldest massacre we can confirm? And the answer is going to bother some people. Silence. Not complete silence. Individual violence shows up across the prehistoric record. Cracked skulls, healed wounds from weapons, the occasional projectile point lodged somewhere it was never supposed to be. But mass graves before 10,000 years ago? Almost none. Weapon caches designed specifically for killing humans at scale? Almost none. Fortified settlements suggesting a sustained, organized need for defense against other human groups? None. For most of human existence, the archaeological evidence for organized warfare is so thin that two of the most respected anthropologists alive today have built entire careers out of publicly disagreeing about what that means. Steven Pinker looks at the prehistoric record and concludes that early life was brutal and violent at the individual level, and that civilization, despite all its horrors, has made us progressively safer over time. Douglas Fry looks at the exact same record and concludes that organized warfare is a recent cultural invention, that for the vast majority of human history, it simply did not exist as a meaningful or recurring pattern. Same evidence. Completely opposite conclusions. Both are serious scientists with serious bodies of work behind them. And the fact that two people this qualified can reach completely opposite conclusions from the same data should tell you something important about how genuinely unresolved this question is. But here is what almost everyone on both sides agrees on. Something changed around 12,000 years ago. That something was farming. Before agriculture, human groups were small and mobile, 30 to 50 people, moving with the seasons, following food rather than growing it. No fixed territory, no accumulated wealth, no stored surplus that could be stolen. For most of human history, if a conflict developed with another group, the resolution was simple. You left. You moved. Distance was the oldest and most reliable conflict resolution mechanism in human history. You cannot have a territorial war over land that nobody owns, and nobody can afford to stay in one place long enough to defend. The moment you plant crops, that calculation collapses entirely. You cannot pick up a wheat field and relocate it. You cannot carry a granary. You are rooted to a specific piece of ground. And that ground now has value. Enormous, irreplaceable, life or death value. And now other groups know it has value. And the group with the most land has power over the group with less. And for the first time in 300,000 years of human history, there is something worth organizing violence to take and something worth organizing violence to defend simultaneously, with no option to simply walk away. Agriculture did not just feed civilization. It created the conditions in which organized warfare becomes not just possible, but, under certain circumstances, rational. Now, before anyone in the comments reaches for the keyboard to write that ancient humans were peaceful, gentle creatures living in harmony with nature, let me be direct. They were not. Individual violence is ancient and appears to be universal. Raiding, revenge killings, brutal conflict between individuals and small groups. Evidence for all of this stretches across the entire prehistoric record, without a meaningful gap. Ancient humans were absolutely capable of horrific violence. That is not the question. The question is whether organized warfare, coordinated and hierarchical group violence conducted at scale with strategy and sustained intent is an ancient biological inevitability, or a relatively recent product of specific conditions that were created and could theoretically be changed. And the evidence increasingly points toward the second answer. Now here is the part of this video that nobody wants to sit with. The oldest war memorial in human history is a lagoon bed in Kenya. No flags, no names, no ceremony, no nation that claimed the dead as its own. Just 27 people who were in the wrong place when another group decided that whatever they had was worth taking. And somewhere between that morning 10,000 years ago and the news you scrolled past this morning, we built entire civilizations, legal systems, religions, and philosophies around the question of when it is acceptable to do to other humans what was done at Nataruk. We have not answered that question. We have just developed considerably more sophisticated tools for avoiding having to, which brings us back to the voice. The one that says this is just what we are. That voice is not describing human nature. It is describing human infrastructure, the specific economic and territorial conditions that emerged roughly 12,000 years ago and shaped every society that came after. Infrastructure is not nature. It was built. And unlike instincts, the things we build can be redesigned. That is either the most hopeful thing this video says, or the most naive. The comments are right there. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one.